Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's very special space, our inaugural space with Pixels. My name is Kermit, your host for the evening, and today, really, what we're going to be doing is diving into the new dawn of Pixels. What is Pixels? Who is Pixels? What is in store for the present, for the near term future, for the long term future of Pixels, and so much more. If you want to pitch in, if you have any questions that you would like me to ask to Luke and Heidi, make sure to post them in the comment section in the bottom right corner down below. And without further ado, I would love to start by going around the room and welcoming our beautiful panelists, Luke and Heidi. Let's actually start with let's switch things up. I feel like everyone typically goes to Luke. I'm gonna go to Heidi first. Heidi, how are you today?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I couldn't be doing better. I mean, I'm surrounded by some of my favorite builders in Web3. I have to say, I've been watching your meteoric rise back from when you guys were on ETH, like way back. So it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be hosting the space with you guys. How was the weekend?
Oh my gosh. That's a good question. I don't even remember. I flew back from Spain. I flew back from Spain on Thursday. So the last few
Oh
days have been an
no.
absolute blur. But yeah, it's been amazing. These past several months, especially, which I'm sure we'll dive into, have been a ride.
Mhm.
Just very exciting times. It feels really good. Luke and I were on a call yesterday and we were just talking about it just feels good, the community amazing. We're building like crazy. Web3 is just explosive. Yeah, all good things.
I mean, I do have to address the elephant in the room. This is one of the first, if not the first space, where literally 5 minutes into the space, we're already at 1,300 live listeners.
Oh, let's go.
What the hell am I doing here? How did I make it here?
I mean, so that's actually something I want to say. We do AMAs. We live stream.
Mhm.
You guys, if you're in our community, you already know this. Luke and I, you see our faces. We're talking to the camera every Wednesday. For the last 2 years, we've been doing it every Wednesday. So going live with our community is something that we're very used to. And probably why so many of you guys have showed up is because you're just like, yeah, this is what we do here. We come together and we have a great time. What I'm specifically excited for on these AMAs, or sorry, not these AMAs, these Twitter spaces, is we're kind of changing the format a bit. I feel like it's going to be more interview style, more discussion, more
Oh
panelists.
yeah.
We're bringing on a bunch of guests. So there's going to be a lot more content across just like broad topics, lots of different things to learn and hear from and all of that. So I'm very excited to kind of switch it up a bit. And for our regular listeners, Luke and I will be going live every Wednesday as per usual. So don't worry about that. This is an addition that I'm just, yeah, absolutely elated to be part of.
Oh yeah. No, don't worry about that. Heidi and Luke aren't going anywhere. If anything, you're going to be seeing twice as much of them as ever. So great news for everyone. One thing I do want to try, a challenge that I want to give everyone listening in today. This is already breaking the all-time high of all-time highs that I've ever seen on a space before in terms of numbers. So I actually want to give a challenge. You know, we've already broken the all-time high. How much further can we go? So if you want to see the space just absolutely crush Twitter, if you want to see Twitter just shutting down, honestly, if we can go any higher, make sure to retweet the room, comment, like, really any interaction on the post that I pinned up top from Pixels. That would help in reaching even more people. Let's break records,
Yeah,
honestly.
let's do
We're
it. You
here.
guys break our servers. Let's break Twitter's.
Let's there you go, you have it. Let's break Twitter. Appreciate you, Heidi. I'm gonna circle back to you in a moment. Luke, brother, how are you feeling?
Hey man, yeah, feeling good, feeling really energized lately. I took like a little bit of time off during the new year, or over the holidays, and yeah, really needed that because it's about to be such an intense next couple of months. But yeah, no, it's crazy to like
Oh yeah.
be here with this many people, have so many people like playing Pixels right now. It feels really, really cool. And I'm just very appreciative, very grateful.
Man, one thing that Haiti actually taught me for the first time recently is in Pixels, there's a specific room, there's a specific place that people can go into. Pixel Heidi is already unmuting herself.
I'm
Heidi, you
prepared.
wanna? Oh yeah, I can see that. I can see that. So there's a room where people can go into, listen to the space in real time, and recharge their energy at the same time. Heidi, take us away.
Yeah. As so I guess I actually let me talk about the history of our spaces a bit. So this is way back when
Let's go.
I'd been working with Luke for like 3 4 weeks. We were in Miami for a tech event, and our community was just pissed off. They were just mad that we weren't communicating enough with them. And I was like, all right, Luke, let's like hop on a Twitter space. And then we just, it evolved from there. We decided, okay, we're going to do this every week. We're going to show up. And this was at the height of the bull market. And we just continued to show up. But I think something that was unique to us is we decided to be very, we can talk about building in public and how we've taken that on. But also just
Mhm.
as transparent as possible, but also in who we are. Like, I'm Heidi. That's my real name. That's on my birth certificate. Like we showed up as we are to the space where anonymity was at its all-time high. And I think that was quite unique as well. And so over time, we decided, like, hey, let's actually live stream like our faces. Let's show up even more. And it grew from there. And then as the game grew as well, AMAs, these weekly live streams have become such a huge part of our community and our structure. So we wanted to legitimize it in game as well. We were kind of tired of separating the two. So we built a theater. There's a theater in Terravilla. If you just go a little bit north east, is that west? No, northwest from the fountain. There's a theater you can enter into, and during our live streams every week, we have an energy party in there. If you stand in the middle, you'll get the most energy. It's usually popcorn flying everywhere, but I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't working. So it's hearts today. But there's a little bit of an energy boost in the theater. And then if you click on the microphone for the YouTube live streams, you can just directly watch the YouTube from the game. For Twitter Spaces, it is gonna link out to the Twitter website just because Twitter doesn't allow you to iframe in the game. But that's fine. You can still link to it and enjoy a little bit of an energy booster while you're listening to me and Luke ramble.
Man, oh man, this deserves a for anyone unfamiliar with my soundboard. Whenever someone has a great take, this is what we play them. Whenever
Amazing.
someone has a bad take, this is what we play them.
Oh no.
And whenever someone just crushes it, this is what we play them.
All
But
right,
anyway,
Luke, how many of those are we going to get today? That's the goal.
I love it. I love it. Before we actually dive into Pixels, Leon, I also see you on stage with us, man. What are your impressions so far? I mean, of Pixels, of the room. I don't think we've seen a space this big before.
Man, you won't believe it, Kermit. I was literally as you were playing the music, I was having a salad standing up on the bar, and as the music starts ramping down, I look at my screen and just see like how we're doing. I was expecting maybe 100 people live. I see 998. At first, I thought it was like 99 people. Then I look closer, my eyes just open up, and I was about to spit that salad. Man, this is next level. As a builder myself, big shout out to Luke, big shout out to Heidi. You both have been doing a fantastic job. I know there's a big team behind you as well, but this is inspiring. I have to say, big shout out to both of you.
Oh yeah, easily deserve a. There we have it. I almost pressed the wrong button, which would have changed my voice. You don't want to hear that.
What?
There's a button that changes my voice, but we don't want to hear that, Heidi. We do
I kind
not
of
want to hear
do.
that. No. Trust
Okay,
me.
at the
Trust me.
end. If how about this, guys? If we reach 2,000 people in this space concurrently, he'll do it at the end.
How many? How many are we setting? 2,000?
2,000. We're at 16. Oh, just under 1,600 right now.
Remember that challenge I gave everyone to amplify their let's cancel that. Anyway, so diving right in. I really want to dive into the origin, the birth story, the origin story of Pixels, how it all started. And I'd love to actually start by you, Heidi, since you were just unmuted.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll just keep myself unmuted the whole time. Honestly, there's no sound around
Oh
me.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is more Luke's story to tell, but I can give a quick rundown. No, you know what? I'm gonna let Luke. Luke, you tell the story. This is your story to tell. The origin
Go
of
ahead, Luke.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, part of it's like a personal journey, right? Like how I got here and like why I was even interested in starting building pixels, and then part of it's like a team journey, like like all the work that the team's done over the last 2 years, and then part of it also is just like a company journey too. Like, so I guess like to start, I started coding at a really young age. I actually started making video games when I was like 12 years old, and yeah, I didn't tell anybody. I was kind of embarrassed that I was coding instead of doing other stuff when I was like in middle school and high school. But yeah, it just led me to like some interesting paths this way. I ended up studying computer science and economics at the University of Michigan. And I just was really drawn to economics. Like it was kind of obvious to me before I went to college that I was going to study computer science. Like I was going to be a software engineer. I was going to go down that route. But when I was in university, I started taking some economics classes and just kind of fell in love with it. I don't know why. It's just so interesting to me thinking about incentive design, thinking about like human behavior and how that leads to like models and math and all of this kind of stuff. Just kind of geeked out on it. So yeah, I studied both of those degrees, kind of expecting the economics degree to be completely useless. And after I graduated, I was kind of debating going down, um, going down the fintech route or going down like working at like hedge funds. But I worked interned at like a couple of during a summer or two, and I absolutely hated the work environment. Absolutely hated like that kind of style of company, and just realized it wasn't for me. So I went to work as a software engineer for a little bit. I had the intention of like working there and then leaving after 2 years. Basically, did that. Quit my job, started traveling, and started what became Pixels. But Pixels wasn't Pixels for a while. I was messing around in the virtual events and virtual spaces category for like almost 2 years before we moved into Web3 and into Web3 gaming. It's funny because it wasn't called Metaverse back in like 2019, 2020, but I was building a Metaverse product basically. We were selling these virtual spaces, the same tech that you're using Pixels on right now. It didn't have any game features. It was basically like a meeting space for people to like gather online, and we were selling this to enterprise companies like Uber, Apple, Rippling, Twitter. They all used our product, but the issue with this product was in virtual spaces in general is we never found a very consistent use case with them. Our key lesson was when you give people a virtual space, unless there's something to do in it, the best use case scenario that you're going to see is they're going to use it about like once a month to maybe once a week for an hour on a scheduled meeting cadence. You really need something that's stickier and more engaging. And what you see a lot of those other companies have pivoted to is remote work for that reason. People use it as like a meeting spot. But I hated sitting in a virtual office. I had very low conviction in that type of product. And, I was actually willing to completely change everything that we were doing and completely abandon this tech and completely abandon this direction. But then we saw it, funny enough, we saw Axie Infinity as we were in this pivot mode really, really blow up. And I was so mesmerized by it. I thought it was the coolest thing, especially when I started reading some of the deeper thought pieces on it around virtual worlds, around virtual economy. And I got personally really bought into like the idea of Web3 because mostly the economics components to it. That was the coolest thing to me, basically building an entire like they were calling it nation building back then, but basically building like an entire economy ground up. I was just geeking out on it. So when we had the opportunity to like start exploring more pivots, we ended up putting a game feature on top of this course tech stack that we had built out. And somebody spent all night playing the game. And at the same time, we had an NFT collection that was using our platform as a meetup spot. And they kept bugging me to put their NFTs into the game. I initially wrote them off. It's funny because I got like a little woken up to Web3 and crypto by Axie Infinity, but I still had this negative connotation due to my economics professors in university. It's funny because a lot of traditional econ, I mean, you're seeing it with SEC stuff and all this other regulation, hates crypto still. And I got drilled into me that crypto is like not very useful when I was in university, even though I had like some early exposure before. But yeah, with these two things, that kind of gave me a compelling conviction to move into Web3. And then that kind of starts like the team and the company journey since then. So we've taken a pretty different approach to building in Web3 than maybe some teams that are, even in the space right now or like in the space before. Or at least because I have this like startup background. I was not in Web3 before I started doing this. I was in like much more traditional startup grind set mode, where the idea is you never know when you have product market fit. You assume that you don't. You iterate and you try a ton of things to find product market fit. And I still feel like most of Web3 is in that space. So we've taken that approach to our building too. We built team. The team is amazing. I'm so appreciative to be working with this team. They're all super talented, young, hungry, and then we also have some like great people who are experienced leading some of the core principles in game design as well too. But yeah, this team is basically taking this approach of one, building in public, two, having the mindset that we don't know what we're doing, and that's completely okay. We have to try things to figure out what we're doing. And we've kind of settled on a few different things that we're most interested in. One, we're most interested in figuring out incentive design around Web3 gaming. To us, that's kind of the key difference maker between Web3 games and Web2 games. How can you make Web3 games hyper competitive against Web2 games? And how do you make experiences that don't exist in Web2 games? So what we've been really thinking about is, how can we create incentive structures around earnings, around other in-game assets or other in-game features that make growth in our ecosystem so untouchable compared to Web 2, or it just gives us like a really unfair advantage compared to Web 2. And then the other thing that we've been thinking about is like, are there new game features that we can build in that aren't possible in Web 2? And we've just been iterating and building on that. So, if we take this build in public approach, we come into spaces with all of you guys, we treat our community like team members as well. I think that's an important distinction because we think that community feedback is one of the superpowers of Web3. I'm in a Discord all the time. Even if I'm not messaging, I'm looking at sentiment, I'm looking at feedback, I'm looking at all the stuff. We take AMA questions from people. We meet up with like our community leaders who are just like volunteers because we want to know how people feel about what we're building because it's so important. It's an iterative process. It requires us testing stuff. It also requires us getting feedback. So yeah, I mean, that's a bit of the story, right? It's been a long journey. We're really appreciative of our community, and most of our community has like been just a part of this journey as even team. We're really nothing without this community, and I mean, you can see like just by the amount of people in this space, they show up, they care, they feel like they're a part of it. That's a huge thing to us.
You did it.
There you go. There you go. There you go. After this monologue, man, I had to. What an amazing story, man. What an amazing origin story. And one of the funny things is you were mentioning Axie, how big of an involvement it had in just shaping your perception of Web3, your perception of NFTs. We literally have Geos in the audience here with a massive shout out to Geos, to Sky Mavis, to Ronan, to the Axie Infinity team, to everyone behind Axie. And what a ride it's been, right? From this being anti-crypto, being against crypto and NFTs, to all of a sudden seeing a playbook develop for efficient usage of the blockchain, to all of a sudden partnering with one of the biggest gaming chains in the world. So one thing let's actually pivot a bit to a fun question. Luke, if you were to never found Pixels, what would you be doing today?
This is hilarious. I think about this too much. Yeah. So before I started Pixels, I actually did a bunch of alternative lifestyles. I actually took like a year and a half, almost 2 year long break from tech before I came back and actually started Pixels. And I basically had quit my job. I moved to New Zealand and I started doing a bunch of odd jobs. I worked in like a surf hostel. I worked on a farm, milking cows. I helped like calf a few cows, like give birth to them. And then yeah, I worked on sailboats for a while too, and it's really crazy. Like the first venture check that we got into Pixels, I was literally on a sailboat when it happened. I like messaged the guy being like, "Hey, I can't get back to you because I'm about to like be out of service in the middle of the Pacific Ocean for like 10 days." Um, and yeah, I think about it a lot. It's funny because I'm a very driven, ambitious, motivated person, but there's also like a lot of other life out there. I'd probably be on a sailboat right now. I have a couple friends that kept going down that route.
I love the irony. So you made a game where you could essentially farm, and in an alternate reality, you would have been a farmer slash sailor.
Yeah, you have okay. What I think is kind of psycho, but it's also hilarious, is how many people are farmers that play Pixels. There are so many
Right?
people that spend.
It's
What?
amazing.
Yeah,
What?
Yeah, and we ask them for advice sometimes. Like one of our farm hands is a farmer, and he sent us like documents full of like this is what real life farming is like.
Oh my
It's
god,
the best.
this is on another level. So a big percentage of your demographic is actual
a
farmers.
large enough
I mean, I
percentage
wouldn't
where
say
it's
big, but I would say more than you would expect.
I I need to dive in. I need to research a bit more. I like that. All right, very interesting. One thing I want to pivot to is really the pivotal role. I'm saying pivot too much. I know, Kermit. It's okay. It's okay. I'll get better. I'll get better. I'll ease into it. So 2023 has been such a pivotal year for Pixels, with millions of users really hopping in, thousands of new faces coming on board. What do you attribute Pixel's success today to? And I'd love to start with Luke and then go to you, Heidi.
yeah. So the last like 3 to 4 months, I think, can be like really, really greatly attributed to Ronan and working with the Ronan Sky Mavis team. There's no guessing that. There's no even like downplaying like how important that move was to us and what a game changer it was. The hardest part about Web3 is user acquisition. It's also one of the most expensive parts too. And there really isn't any other place that you can go in Web3 that has the amount of users that Ronan has. And it's really cool to be a part of that because I think we're also helping Ronan grow a little bit as well on our end. But that's only because they already have done the hard work of a lot of user acquisition in so many different countries, demographics, all of that too. And it's quite expensive to do that. So yeah, huge shout out to them. It's been a total game changer for us. Obviously we had to have a product that was ready to do this, but we wouldn't be here without them.
Heidi, do you think you can top that?
I mean, no. But something I did want to address with this question is growth is not linear, and I think a lot of people think it is. They're like, "Oh yeah, every single day you get X amount more players." And we've seen periods of growth. So when you say, "Oh, 2023 was pivotal," I actually thought back to a moment in 2020, what was it? 2022, that was pivotal because I was like, to me, like that was a major point, and it was to Pixels. And this Luke I'm talking about, it was actually kind of crazy. I went to Mexico City just because, and then Luke ended up being there too. And I told everyone he was following me. But the truth is, we just both randomly were in Mexico City at the same time. And I was going up the elevator in WeWork to meet him. And he messaged me. He was like, "We have 17,000 Twitter followers." And at the time, we had like, what was it, like 8 or 10? And we were both really confused. We're like, what's happening? And what had happened is that we had gone viral in a specific community and gotten a lot of followers just completely organically. And then from there, we continued to grow and grow and grow. And then, of course, we've done different growth, like I'm not calling them hacks because they're not. They've been very well done. But different growth, like, oh my gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, things. Our first Play-to-airdrop was a major growth period for us. And then we continued to build and things slowed down a bit. And then we did another campaign and things grew again. So we've kind of gone through these like stages of intense growth. And every single time there's been, especially for me. So for those of you who don't know, I'm CMO. I'm kind of in charge of everything external facing at the company. And so one of those things is support, is our community teams, our farmhands teams, like all of those sorts of things. And the first stage of growth in Mexico City, I onboarded the farmhands team because we needed more community support. We needed more moderators. We needed these people that were absolute experts at pixels to help us support and grow, because we couldn't do it with the small team we had at the time. And then that was a big change. And then Luke and I did a full presentation to Luke like a few months ago on how to revamp our support system, because we partnered with Ronan and we went through this huge growth stage again. So it's like, here we are again, pivoting, because we need to figure out ways to support this new growth. And so, 2023 has been insane and magical, but I have to say there've been so many different times throughout this whole journey that have felt intense and pivotal.
I love this so much. I love this so much because it goes to show, and this is something I talk with Leon as well a lot, especially when a lot of founders are trying to really shoot for the stars, really have that parabolic climb. And we try as much as possible to point them towards founders that have actually, in projects, builders, communities that have actually made it all the way to the top, what that growth curve looks like, what is entailed in that growth curve, what it takes to reach point A to point B. And I love that you just actually, hold on. There you go. Had to. Again, almost press the button that changes the voice. So I really need to be more careful when pressing buttons. So I love that you've highlighted that some of the most pivotal bits and aspects of the rise of pixels wasn't actually things that happened in 2023 when the game picked up. If I'm saying this quote unquote, it was back when in 2022 when you were making some of those foundational, fundamental decisions.
Okay,
and I love this.
So this is something that I am very passionate about and I speak to a lot, and I'm extremely proud of the foundation that we've created in our community. You guys had me on a Twitter space a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a week ago. I can't keep track of time at this.
Oh yeah.
And
neither can I.
I had to bite my tongue so many times because you were asking other people questions, and I just wanted to talk about pixels and what we had done. And I think something that we've done incredibly well is set a really strong foundation. Our community is here. They're like Luke was talking about it. We cannot talk about our success without our community and the people that have been here through this journey building with us. We're all in this together. We rely on their feedback and like so much, right? And I remember one question, I think in that Twitter space a few weeks ago, was asked, when the FUD gets really bad and your project's getting canceled, like what do you do? And all I wanted to say was that intensity doesn't happen to us because we have built such a strong community that will stand by when things get rocky.
Yeah, to add on top of that too, I also have some opinions on FUD where it's like I don't like to view FUD as necessarily a bad thing. Like it's our community. If there is FUD, it's just them being passionate about something typically, right?
Exactly. If the people are no matter what people are saying, if they're talking about us, it's because they care. That's what matters.
Oh yeah. There's difference between FUD and feedback, right? Wrong?
Ooh, I don't know.
I think most FUD is typically feedback. I think what you don't want is you don't want people to stop caring. That's the thing that you don't want. That's the real FUD.
Exactly.
When people give up on a project, that's the sad part.
Oh yeah. And for you guys, what were some of the highlights of 2023? Like if we were to watch what are these called at the end of the year? Like Spotify has them. The things you watch.
Spotify Wrapped.
Wrapped. If we were to have a Pixels Wrapped for 2023, what would it look like?
Well, fun fact, we do. I made one. There's a Twitter thread. There's a thread.
Pin it up top.
Okay, let me do that. It's funny. So before I pin it, or while I'm trying to find it, I did this last year, And it was really fun. And I went through and I highlighted, a thread, all of the highlights of our year. And this year I was like, oh, I'm going to do that again. And I had to reformat it because we did 10x in 2023. It would have been hundreds of tweets long. I could not fit it all. So I tried to, first of all, lots of different things weren't included because I couldn't fit it all, but also I kind of did it by month roughly. John Deere did get their own tweet because they're still ignoring us. So guys, go spam John Deere. We want to partner with them. But yeah, let me find it. Let me pin it.
If we can get 1,630 people to spam John Deere, I think John Deere will retire from Twitter.
Oh man. Okay.
There you go, beautiful. So as you're looking for it, one thing I did want to also ask you. So as you were talking about community building, right? How strong of a community you guys have built? What would you attribute, like to a young founder, an old founder, just a founder listening to the space today? What would you attribute the strength of the community you have today to the things that you've done in the past? How did you get to harvest such a strong community?
I think show up. Like Luke
Mm.
and I are here right now. We're talking. We're being as
Mhm.
transparent as you could ask for about how we've got here, highs and lows. And like we've said up to this point, we're listening. Listen to your community. Obviously, it's tough. There's a fine line when you're building in public between doing everything that your community asks for and doing what might actually be right for the success of your project. And it's blurry. It's so blurry. It's hard to often know like what's right and what's wrong. But I think something that we've done really well is listen, show up, and put trust in our community. Me alone, I could not support the size of our community. We have a community team of part-time Pixels employees, and we have farmhands team that are absolutely incredible experts in pixels, and they are the ones responding to the questions, and then they in turn ask us questions, and they're giving us we meet with them every 2 weeks and we get feedback directly from people that are playing the game constantly. So I think that's something that Luke and I have done very well.
Oh yeah, and this is something you also mentioned just a few moments ago, which is how public you guys are with everything you're building. How much you guys build in public with those weekly spaces, those weekly AMAs that you guys have every single Wednesday, showing yourself, being doxxed as well. Those are all different things, different reasons. I know, Luke, I also saw you unmute and then you muted again. Did you
Yeah, I
want to
was
add
gonna
to
add
that?
just on some of the community building part too. Like part of it was like against the grain, intentional community building early on at the foundation of Pixels. And it's something like me and Heidi
Yeah.
worked on a lot in the early days of Pixels, like in
Mm-hmm.
2021 even, where if you were following us early on, some people actually didn't even like this. We did
Mm-hmm.
not want to build the typical Web3 community at the time. And it was very intentional. Like one,
Yeah.
like it was a lot of a degen audience in peak bull run, right? That didn't really have the best interest of projects, didn't really care about projects, all that kind of stuff. We wanted to build a community of people who actually liked what we were doing, who wanted to be a part of Web3 gaming, who felt like they were involved in it. And that meant not having some people inside of our community and not catering how we set up our community to some people, even if, they were by at the time, whales, like if you want to call them whales, like prominent figures in like Web3 at the time, like, they weren't super, they were welcome in our community, but we were going to make decisions or like change anything about our community to cater to them. There was a lot of intentional community building early on. And even now, that's still the case where it's like we want to be building a game and a community for the people who care about our game and who like our game. It's not necessarily about some of those other personas that maybe are targeted all the time in Web3. It is really about the people who like what we're doing.
100%. That's such a good point. And I have to say too, it was kind of funny. I joined Pixels and that was my first introduction to Web3. And I didn't know any better. I didn't know. I didn't know what like the the culture really was. I didn't know what like the crypto bro mentality was. So I came in, and I joke about this a lot. Like I just made a quest called Miss Peach, and Miss Peach was lonely, and you need to go find her and take a picture of her so that she was less lonely. Like, can you imagine that quest at the height of the bull market? Because like that is what happened. You know. So yeah, we just set a tone that was different. We
Hmm.
wanted people, people would constantly ask us, Web3's changed a lot. People aren't asking the same questions, but back then they would be
Hmm.
like, oh, your NFT collection, you're an NFT collection. And I would be like, no, we're a game studio, an NFT collection like third or fourth, you know? So I'm glad people
Hmm.
aren't asking those questions anymore because they see the utility and like the future of gaming in Web3 and all of that. And I don't have to kind of explain it as much because people get it. They're
Right.
here, which is awesome.
Right. Right. I like that. I like that. And one thing you guys were mentioning as you were having that back and forth is there was a lot of intentional thinking, a lot of intentional input into the type of user that you're catering to. Right, Luke? You were just mentioning you weren't a big fan of the degen crowd that was just all around crypto, and it's still around to this day, 2021, 2022, 2023. And I know this is something we're going to talk about a lot more in future spaces, but I'd love to just get your TLDR, your thoughts on that user archetype segmentation. Like, how do you determine who and what user you're targeting? The farmer, the actual farmer, the gamer,
Yeah, totally. I've been thinking
etc.
about this so much, and that's actually a lot of the nuance that we'll be discovering over the next year ourselves too. To me, that's actually the hard and deep tech of Web3. Figuring out who your users are, how to identify them, and how to reward the best ones. Like that is the problem set of Web3. And if you can figure that out, you have some really, really interesting stuff there. Like that's how I think that you can make Web3 and play to earn and all of these other like really exciting things actually viable. But you have to have a good understanding of who your users are.
Hmm.
So for us, I think about it a lot. It's like there are different personas that do different jobs inside of a Web3 ecosystem, and acknowledging them is important. Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
whales are important, but, too much emphasis on a particular, um, persona is also too bad. I don't think there's a problem with degen behavior.
Hmm.
I think that actually is like one of the like interesting parts of Web3, even for like the normal gamer. Like I think, let's be honest, if you're in Web3, you got a little degen in you. That's not the worst thing. But if you're full on degen, that's probably not the player that we want to be catering towards. Like we want you to be a gamer. We want you to be, actively participating in what we're doing. And we also want to like protect you as well, right? Like there is some interesting components that you can go
Hmm.
and add into Web3 games, where you want to make sure that your users are protected and that they're not doing anything too risky as well. So there's a whole balance of this kind of stuff, but that's exactly like what we're working on over the next year, basically.
I love that. I love that. And again, as I earlier said, we are diving into this topic. I believe we have a panel we're preparing just for this topic because it's such a big topic to dive into. What users you target? What are the many faces of Web3 users? So pivoting a bit from here, and really the last segment I would like us to cover today is having a look at Pixel today and what Pixels has in store for 2024. So, one thing you guys launched and announced recently is the Play to Airdrop 2.0, right? So, can you tell us a bit more about that? What is it? What do people need to know? Let's start with that. What is it and what do
Correct. So
people need to know?
biggest short-term initiative at Pixels is we're launching a token. Or there's going to be a token called Pixel getting launched, and the Pixels game will use that token. And we're super excited about the possibility and future of that. And this is basically the last chance to get some of that token or to earn some of that token before it's launched. We're really excited about the next stages of what this means, and to us, the Pixel token is really necessary for the things that we're trying to achieve when it comes to developing more technology and more opportunities around play to earn, as we dive into the next elements of gameplay, we're super excited about what this unlocks. So yeah, the Play to Airdrop is another campaign. Basically, there are 7,000 spots. There's a leaderboard, and you have to play the game. You can collect badges, you can collect like different points, and you can level up this leaderboard, and these points will give you a potential airdrop into this pixel token right before we launch it. And that token's just around the corner.
Right. And people can hop in right now, start playing the game, start accumulating those badges, unlocking those badges, and start basically, accumulating
Exactly.
that
It's
token.
live right now. You can go participate, go to pixels.xyz or play.pixels.xyz, hop in the game. You'll see like a bunch of stuff around it. If you check the dashboard, you'll see your progress on it. You can check your rank. And yeah, if you haven't participated yet, there's still time. You have a chance.
Right. This was exactly what I wanted to ask next, because in preparation for this space, I actually asked a couple of my friends, what they thought of Pixels. A lot of them, man, to my surprise, very busy people. They're over here playing Pixels full time. Like some of the busiest people I've met just playing Pixels, partly because of how fun it is, partly because of the incentive as well. You match those two, you get people that want to try it out for the first time.
Can I
And one
just
of the
say a quick?
questions,
Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead, go
I
ahead,
did not
Heidi.
mean to cut you off. I just want
Oh,
to
go
say
ahead.
a story, which we've told a few times, but it was my favorite thing ever. During our first Play-to airdrop, you
Hmm.
were grinding scarrots is basically. So you're planting, harvesting scarrots, and there
Hmm.
was one guy in our community that had a newborn baby, and he said, "Oh, I have to wake up every 2 hours to feed the baby. So I plant the scarrots, feed the baby, like harvest, and then every 2 hours I wake up every 2 hours." And it was like part of his routine. That was just hilarious and amazing, and we get people saying a lot of the time like Pixels is a casual game that I can just have on my other monitor while I'm working, or it takes me back to the old days and stuff. So it's funny when you're like, oh, super busy people. I feel like that's our demo, you
I
know
love that. I love that a lot. Anyway, what I wanted to ask was, one of the main questions that a lot of these people would ask me is it too late, right? Because a lot of this airdrop, a lot of this play to airdrop is based on, one of the things it's based on is your rank. What am I missing? What is the airdrop essentially based
Yeah,
on?
so you can earn these points through getting these badges basically. There's a few badges that we're offering to some of the people who are more of that grindy type persona. Like there are people who get I didn't understand it fully
Hmm.
myself. It's funny because I grew up playing RuneScape. That's a very grindy game, but there are people who legitimately just have a lot of fun chasing leaderboards, grinding, doing that kind of stuff. They get satisfaction out of it, that too. So we designed some of these quests for that player persona in mind, where there's basically leaderboards that just started a few days ago. They're like fresh leaderboards on who can harvest most of like certain resources. Those will give you a big boost when it comes to the points in the Play the Airdrop campaign. But there's also other ways to get in too. So
Hmm.
basically, we're also doing something interesting where if you get like a minimum amount of points, I think we have it set at 3,000 points right now in this campaign. We'll still give out 1,000 spots in this Play the Airdrop campaign randomly to people who get over that certain amount of points. So that 3,000 point mark isn't super crazy to get. You could probably get it in like a couple days if you're playing the game actively. Or there's like a few quests that you'll have to complete as well too. If you're a landowner, you'll get that right away, and you'll get entered in that like basically 1,000 spot raffle just by participating as well too. So bare minimum, if you don't have time to grind,
Mm,
that's worth doing, because why not?
I love that. I love that. And what would you say to someone who might be listening in the audience today, looking into Pixels, into starting to play Pixels? What would be the best
Yeah,
first step?
so I honestly think the best first step before anything else is join the Discord and become a part of the community, because that's actually the fun part of Pixels. Our game
Mm,
is fun, our game is good, and then all the other things that we're doing are fun too. But like what you actually get at Pixels too is you get to be a part of a giant experiment in Web3. Like you're an active participant in making Web3 gaming
mhm,
better. And that's the fun part, right? Like not just playing the game, but being a part of like this whole thing that we're doing here too. So dive into the community, meet some community
mhm.
members, link up with some other people. The game is really social, so you'll have a better time if you start meeting some new people in game too.
I love that. I love that. All right. So last pivot before we wrap the space. Luke, what can you tell us about 2024 or what's to come in 2024 for Pixels? What does the year
I
look
couldn't
like
be
for
more
Pixels?
excited. So we have this release called Chapter 2 coming out, and that's gonna be a really large rework of a lot of the core gameplay loops of Pixels. But basically, 2024 is everything is on the table. What we've seen is we've seen some things work pretty well with Pixels, but there's also things we know that we need to improve. Anyone that points out flaws in Pixels, like we're probably much more aware of the issues with Pixels than anyone pointing them out on Twitter or any random threader, right? Like we are really trying to fix all these core things because we want to make the best experience, the best game, and the best ecosystem possible. So we're really fortunate because we're a bit more resourced now, and we can pour some more resources into improving all the things we've wanted to for so long. And I guess the core focus is on gameplay. It's on sustainable economics. It's around new experiences. It's tightening up the game. I think we have a lot of things we've been doing really well, but I want to take the gameplay to another level. I want to make the game more fun. And then I also want to run some other experiments too. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we drop like a hyper casual
Love
game on the
that.
side or like start to experiment with some ecosystem plays, some things like that as well too. So take a look out because we're just going to run a ton of experiments. You're going to get to be a part of it. Some of it might work, some of it might not, but that's kind of the point.
I love that. Sharpen the game, make the game better, experiment a lot. That is what is in store for 2024. Heidi, I'd love to pass the mic on to you and ask you the same question. What is in store for Pixels in 2024 on Heidi's end?
Oh my God. What I'm really excited for is, I mean, everything that comes out of my mouth is community related. So you already know I'm going to talk about that. um, as we've grown and since we partnered with Ronan, basically it was kind of like, I think in the way that I put it in our Twitter thread was like a marriage of communities. We saw just the people that came from the Ronan community they were just perfect. Honestly, they fit into our community so well and they were such lovely people. And so I'm so excited to see how those personas like continue to grow within our community. And personally, I'm really excited to kind of like flesh out a better content creator program, work with partners. Our partnerships that we do are always just such a blast. They're so much fun. So I've been working a lot on that. And then other things like these Twitter space series, I love connecting with our community in any way possible. So we've been working on throwing events in game more and what can we do with that? How can we use our tech to improve those events? How can we and then yeah, with this guild system coming out, what is that going to look like from a social standpoint? And how will we support that? So all of those questions I have lingering, I'm just so excited to see how they're answered.
Oh man, I can tell you there's going to be a lot of connecting with new faces, new
Oh
people,
yeah,
new community members over the
so
coming
fun.
weeks. Oh
I'm
yeah,
so
I
excited.
I do not doubt that. I know that for a fact. And really, to wrap up today's space, I'd love to actually give you the stage. Starting with you, Heidi, what are some things you would like to say before we wrap up for today?
Oh my gosh, putting me on the spot. I feel like I've already said
I
so
did. I
much.
did do that. I did do that. I should have given you more time. I know.
No,
It's
I
okay.
just like I've said so many times, like we're so transparent. We show up. We're constantly talking. We're constantly listening. And so there's not like one specific thing that I have to say because we're just an open book. Like we're always
Mhm,
connecting with our community. So, I
mhm.
sound like a broken record and the community is probably going to roll their eyes at this, but just thank you all so much for being here with us. Each and every one of you makes an impact and a difference. Every single piece of feedback, every comment, every time I see one of you supporting another person in the community, making a new connection, all of those things have created and built what we have here today. And me personally, along with obviously the team, I appreciate each and every one of you so much. So thank you so much for being here.
What a beautiful way to end this space. Luke, I will throw you the mic your
Yeah,
way.
same thing. This community is nothing without all of you guys. That's why partly why we're excited about the play the airdrop, right? it's a way to get the community involved in what we're doing in the next stages. And we're super excited to move on to the next stages of everything to do with Pixels as well. It's going to be a crazy next couple of months. We're not going to get everything right. I know emotions get heated when things go well, when things don't go well. So keep that in mind. We're going to continue to show up no matter how things go. We're very optimistic about the next couple of months is all I can say. But yeah, we're going to be here for the next, we're going to be here for a long time. We're not going anywhere is what I can say. We're in a very fortunate spot right now. We feel really lucky to be here, and we're very, very lucky to have all of you guys.
Man, what a wholesome way to end today's space, really. It's extremely community centric. I love it. Heidi, Luke, it's been such a pleasure hosting this first space with Pixels, not just for 2024, but the first one in such a long time. I think we've broken so many records. I'm surprised that Twitter is still up and running. I look forward to next week's spaces, the one after, the one after, the one after, all the ones after. If you're listening in from the audience, make sure to tune in same time, same channel, every week, same day of the week, Tuesdays. Looking forward to seeing you all next week. And with that, I'll sign off. It's your boy Kermit. See you all same time next week.
Empty hearts and neon lights, they're playing with my mind. Gotta get out of here.